mother wounds. And this is going to take us into exercise 24, identification of mother wounds, and journal prompt 24, exploring the impact of mother wounds. Now, when I say mother wounds, I'm talking about really wounds derived from the nurturer. All right. So these could be wounds from the father too. These can be wounds from your grandmother or any caregiver, any adult who was responsible, maybe an aunt, an older sister, a cousin. Mothering wounds is a better way to address it. But most normally, these are wounds that are directly related to our mother. And these can be some of the most damaging wounds simply because they cut deep. They cut really, really deep. All right. Especially in the context of our mother and our father, because these are our creators. But even when it is other adults or other caregivers, because they were tasked with our safety. And so when they fail, we don't see it, especially as children, as an indication of them and their character and their inability to love us well. We really do see it as a direct reflection of our safety and of our worth, of our belonging. And that to a psyche, to an ego, can be so damaging. All right. So, what I have found is that people will continue to move from the pain of their mother wound long into their adult life, not understanding that they don't have to continue to suffer the ways that they did as children by the hands of their mother, right? In the next video, we talk much more in depth about being your own mother. That is reframing that role in your life and understanding that you have responsibility for it. But what's important to understand is that the ways that your mother loved you do really become, and by mother, I mean all of those, do really become the ways in which you understand your right to receive love, period, from anybody. I know for me, my mother was a terribly abusive woman. She's not well. And as I was growing up, as I became an adult, especially a young adult, I really convinced myself that if my literal creator didn't love me, then I was not worthy of love from anyone. And that allowed me to accept much less than I deserve from everyone, including myself. I was not worthy of love in any meaningful sense. My creator deemed it so, right? She deemed it so. She was abusive. She told me she wished I was dead. She was really, really horrible to me, physically abusive, let her husband be abusive and other, like this woman was a monster. How could she be a monster to me unless I deserved it? Especially in my case, and I know in a lot of your cases, she wasn't like that with my sisters. She was only like that with me to that degree, to that level of severity. So then it must be me. It must be. And so nobody is going to be able to love me well if my own mother doesn't love me well. And I'm not exaggerating. That is a reframe that used to play in my head quite constantly. Your own mother doesn't love you. Did you really think that he could or he would? Do you really expect any better from these people? So, mother wounds are really wounds of nurture, of belonging, of care and protection. And if I didn't grow up feeling like those things were a part of my relationship with my caregivers, right? If I didn't feel safe in that way, then I probably have some very negative notions around my right to all of those things that I need from others. That really is it. And mother wounds can be hard to face, but I really want to implore you not to just look at your mother, to also look at your father, any other caregivers, anybody else, especially your mother and father, but anybody else who had authority over you in a caregiver role, and how they express love and care to you. How much did they protect you? What ways did they make you feel inadequate or not beautiful, or commented about your weight, or just anything that might have shifted your view of yourself as dictated by the thing that created you? Like that is so, so disturbing to a young psyche, to have this feedback from your maker that you are worthless, or that you are broken, or that you've fallen short, or that you are undeserving of something. Because again, if my creator thinks that, when we are taught to believe that a mother's love is the ultimate love and that mother's love is unconditional and that mother's love is never failing, and yet your love has failed me, that must be some indication of my lack of worth to receive that love. Because mothers love, fathers protect, they protect. So what might it do to you if your father did not protect you, or worse, your father was the cause of your harm? Your father touched you, your father abused you. Now, do you have notions of not having any right to protection, of your safety not being important, or of your deserving harm? Right? So this is a heavy one, you guys. Every time I talk about this, I cry in group, right? And I often, and I struggle with talking about this. I often talk about the good girl, the good boy wound, right? So these are children who did not feel validated at all with their parents or with one parent. And so they became the good girl, right? Uh, And the opposite of the good girl is the troublemaker, right? Who is going to fight against it. They're not internalizing it and getting small. They're angry and they're going to get loud. How dare you not validate me? But it's all born of the same thing. Okay? It's all born of seeking to get the validation that you need in very destructive ways, both of them. The problem is in adulthood, especially with the good girl one and the good boy one, is you become a people pleaser, you become a doormat. You seek that validation again. We've talked about this from everyone else. And when you don't get that validation for being a good girl, it really hurts. You might be 60 years old, still trying to be a good girl to your mother if she's still alive. Like, look at what I've done for you. Look at the gift I gave you. Look at how good I raised my child. Isn't it good enough? I remember one time I was coaching my son's soccer team and we had made this beautiful banner and it was really beautiful, right? Like I had cut out soccer balls and put the kids' picture and I had cut out their names and I showed my mom and my mom was like, "Well, that was a waste of your time and money. It's just children's sports." I remember how much it hurt me. Like she couldn't just say, "Good job. It's beautiful." She couldn't just validate me. And the reason I was showing it to her was it born of the good girl thing, right? Because really, if I was validating myself, why would I even care what her response was? I wasn't able to validate myself at that time. And I really did want her approval. I wanted her to finally see that, "Mama, I'm a good girl." And she still wouldn't give it to me, even in something that simple. And that was a moment for me that I understood. She would have me beg for validation at every level. Why? Because she knew it was something I needed and it gave her power. You know, so mother wounds can be very complex wounds to face, but they must be faced. And there's a reason why these were not wounds that we addressed up front. There's a reason why these are wounds that we address a little bit later, because it is so heavy, because it can knock you off your path so much. And so if you're here and you struggle with your mother or father wounds, I really do want to encourage you to drop in for one of our weekly meetings if you're not already a monthly member. All right. And if you are still on the fence about becoming a monthly member, there's a group that we have there. And in that group, there are visualizations for a lot of these prompts and energy work to help you with a lot of this that is contained there. So I really do want to recommend that. And it also just kind of gives you that support. I know that if I did not have a community to discuss my mother wounds, my father wounds with, I would not be here with those wounds. Those were some of the last biggest points of damage that existed inside of me. It is only with the help of community and sharing that I was really able to heal from a lot of that. And so I just want to give you that option again if it's something that you're interested in. I think it could be terribly helpful.